All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the One of None podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Jonah Casella.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Dr. Andrew Ganung.
And we're happy to be back with another podcast today. Just the two of us again. We'll be working on getting some guests in here, hopefully coming up soon. It's a little tough trying to schedule with people, but we'll figure it out. But today we're going to talk about something that is correlates to every part of your day and your life in general, and that's patience. It's something that not a lot of people have and is really hard to be patient. I know I'm not a very patient person in multiple aspects of my life, but what I'm learning, especially with training for this Ironman, is that patience is very, very important. And, I'll just jump right into it. Well, before I do that, let me just say thank you guys for listening, and all the people that watch on the YouTube channel and listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We post pretty much everywhere. So thank you guys. Hope you're enjoying it. And, like always, reach out if you have any suggestions or anything. But with the YouTube, I've been adding some new cover art and trying to make the videos a little bit better in terms of visually. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that as well. Anyway, let's jump into it. So I was thinking about this topic today about how important it is to be patient. And I'll just jump right into an example. So last year when I started training for the Pittsburgh Marathon, which was right about this time, I hadn't been doing any long distance running, which is something I've talked about already. And so that was all new. And so my expectations for that were very low. And I feel like at that time, because my expectations were so low, it didn't require me being patient. Like, I wasn't frustrated with the fact that I was running 10-minute miles, 10.5-minute miles to start. I didn't feel very impatient with that. I was just kind of like, all right, yeah, I suck at running. Let's just see where this goes. But now that I've been running for a year and I'm running, like, my easy runs are like sub 8s now, it's frustrating that I'm jumping into biking because I'm so good at running. Now I'm starting biking and swimming. And it's almost like I have this expectation that I'm going to get in there and just be good at it and be able to pick it up instantly and be close to what I want my pace to be within like a week or two. And it's been frustrating, and it's honestly been like it had been weighing on me to a certain extent, where I was like, even though it's 6 months out, I was like panicking to myself thinking, man, how am I going to get to the pace that I need to get at? This is much harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm an idiot. And like I had no patience whatsoever. I was just like instant panic. This is going to be impossible. Like the things that go through your mind in that regard, in that situation. Fast forward to yesterday. I'm about a month into biking, a few weeks into swimming, and I had my first swim where I actually felt and noticed progress. And it was like, it was eye-opening for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, like I need to relax now. Looking back, I just needed to be more patient because I've been doing the drills like it's saying to do. And finally now I'm kind of starting to feel more comfortable in the water, and I can, instead of only being able to swim 25 meters freestyle, I'm swimming 200 meters in a row. And it's like, this is what we talked about before, where you take a look back at where you've come from. And that allowed me to see, okay, I've made progress here. I'm making headway. I need to be patient and just ride this out. I have 6 months to get to where I need to be. That's plenty of time. And so that's kind of what we're talking about today, with how important it is to remain patient. It's very easy to get frustrated and want to just quit and be done. Like, nope, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. It's been 2 weeks. I'm done. Those thoughts definitely go through your mind, especially with the swimming, with the bike, but not just with fitness, with other parts of your life in general too. Like, think about, Andrew, if we were 2 3 weeks, a month into optometry and PT school when it was still really, really difficult and we were so fresh to it and it was so frustrating, like how easy it would have been to just be like, this is too much. I don't think I can do this. I'm done. This isn't getting any better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The phrase that comes to mind is like expectation management.
That's
Like
good. Yeah.
I talk about that. I've been talking about that more frequently in the clinic sometimes, especially with like my boss or some of my colleagues. And I think about that. And some of that will come with uh, being tenured or, going through this over and over and over again. Like you understand there's a waiting game to it. But for something like training for a half Ironman or anything like there's something kind of new to us where we're just hopping into it. I think it's a lot more difficult to have the experience expectation management. So we're pretty quick to get flustered. I am probably the least patient person you're going to meet, and I fit well in Florida because nobody else in Florida is patient either, especially with driving. So it works out well, but no, I mean, I 100% agree. And I still struggle with it. There's stuff that even I've been through it a billion times before and I still get impatient with it. So I'd be naive to say that I have learned my lesson. With some things I have learned my lesson, but others I still am vastly impatient with a lot of the things that I do. And, I had a similar realization to you, Jonah, with running. Like I set a goal for the half and I am quickly realizing that I could probably crush that time. As I'm nearing the end of my training, I'm starting to have really, really easy, good runs at paces I didn't think I'd have easy runs at. And now I'm starting to realize that this training, even though it felt long, I think is going to pay off similar to how your swimming is too. And I think that translates well into business too. I struggle a lot um, with my own personal stuff in business. I think for a long time I struggled with wanting to. I I wanted to get promoted really early in my career, and some would say was promoted very early still, but I wanted it even earlier than when I was, and I think that I would have. It would have been a humbling experience had I gotten promoted any earlier. So it was one thing I had to reflect on and be like, all right, this was beyond my expectations. It was better that I didn't get promoted at the time that I did, and patience was actually what I needed the most. And you always feel like you have the best. Um, you feel like what's the word I'm looking for? You feel like you have the best head on your shoulders, and that anyone else's opinion is wrong because you feel like you have the best interpretation of a situation, and when in reality your perspective is oftentimes very skewed. And um, I think it's important to have somebody on your team or in your family or somebody that can hold you accountable and keep you kind of grounded and humbled in where you're at. I think that's where you and I complement each other very well. Is we can be kind of a bird's eye view for each other. And whether it's training, whether it's our faith, whether it's in business, I think that we can rely on each other for that. And it can keep us grounded, when we are feeling very impatient with certain things. I think
Yeah.
just sticking to small wins over time, bit by bit, brick by brick, like we talk about, is what ultimately pays off. And then when you kind of look back in the rear view, you're like, holy crap. Yeah, maybe I should have been a little bit more patient. I laugh at myself about the promotion thing now. I shouldn't have gotten promoted any earlier than I did. So
Yeah.
um, I
Yeah.
think it was worth it.
You bring up a good point too, in that having other people around as well, especially people that have been through or experienced things that you're going through, to remind you to be patient and just it's going to be fine. That's something I feel like I've been needing for this Ironman prep is like I don't have a coach or anything, and all the guys that we're training with have never done one either, and so it's just going in kind of blind, not knowing where I'm at now with these paces. Is that okay? Like, am I on track? And so I feel like that's a good point. It's important to reach out and not be afraid to reach out to people. And it's something that I'm going to do. I have a couple of resources on, or one resource really, on a guy that's done a couple Ironmans and triathlons that actually agreed to help us out with like the transition zones for Penn State. I think I'm going to pick his brain a little bit more and just see, hey, this is where I'm at. He follows me on Strava, so like he kind of sees where I'm at and just like, am I on the right track? Like, do you think I should be doing anything different? I think that's so important, and not just with fitness, but just like you said, with life in general. Like when I was fresh out of school and in optometry and starting my first job, I was very lucky to have the people that I worked for, my bosses, and the other doctor were very very nice and understanding, and were like, and whatever you need, just ask. Like, don't be afraid to ask us. you know don't worry, like it's when it's the days that were really like tough, they were like, it'll get better, just be patient. Once you get a little more experience, things will get faster, things will get smoother. And they were totally right. And so I think that's why it's so important to have somebody like that for every aspect of your life, with your job, with your hobbies, or like what we do with fitness, and also religiously too. Having a pastor or somebody who has been in the church for a long time to reach out to and talk to, that you're comfortable with, or even a family member that has been in the church for a long time, that you can feel comfortable kind of talking to them about things, and be patient in your faith, which I know that's something you wanted to really hit on today, Andrew.
Yeah, so that's a good transition. And I think whether you're religious or not, um, I think this is a good topic to talk about because it comes up in an argument against religion and Christianity. I think we hear a lot about um, people getting impatient. I know I speak from experience on this. People getting impatient with stuff that's they've been looking for, they've been asking for, praying for. And it's so funny because like we talked about, with the fitness thing, like it's always interesting to look in your rear view mirror and see kind of what you were asking for at that time and what you were praying about and trying to talk to God about. And, it looks different for every single person. And I know I definitely struggle with that growing up. I always thought that like I said, I had the best head on my shoulders and no one else had a better idea of what I needed than me. And lo and behold, there is somebody who has a way better idea of what is best for you. And, and I think it's so funny because it always ends up working out the way that it's supposed to. And I struggled a lot with patience in my faith, especially with any relationships that I was in, friendships I was in, you know, school that I was going to. I know I experienced a lot going to Pitt, thinking that was the best thing for me. And, it ended up working out the way that it was supposed to. But even in hindsight, I look back and I realized that there's a lot of things that could have gone differently and it would have been perfectly okay the way that it was. And I was just very impatient. Now, being impatient is also a really great thing too, because it's a good clock for yourself where you can keep track of a lot of things and it keeps you motivated. It keeps you on your toes, keeps you staying consistent with what you need to do. It's for someone like me and Jonah, who are type A people, it really helps us because we can stay on top of our tasks, because we'd rather get things done than let it sit back and kind of lay there and procrastinate. But when it comes to faith, it's not really up to your timing. And, I think that's super important. I can use my move to Jacksonville as an example of that. I think I prayed for a while I prayed more for like relationships that I was in before I left. And quite honestly, God put me in a position that I was actually probably, in terms of location wise, the loneliest I've ever been. I didn't have family. I didn't have friends that lived here. I knew absolutely zero people that lived in Jacksonville when I moved here. So whenever I was praying for abundance in relationships, he put me put me far, far away from all my friends and family. And I can't describe it in any other way other than just my heart changed. and some would leave that to coincidence, and oh, that's, it's a coincidental thing that, you felt compelled to move somewhere like that. But if anybody out there who's listening knows me, knows that I'm not like that. I'm very homebody-ish. I like to be around my friends and family. I stayed in Pittsburgh my entire life. So when I got a job interview in Jacksonville and I got offered a job, I didn't even hesitate. I just moved down there. And so it was interesting, kind of trying to be patient with God's timing. But at the same time, I think God will definitely change your heart in a way that it's supposed to. Or, yeah, the way that your heart should change, the way that He wants you to change. And now I'm living probably the happiest life, and I'm still very far away from my friends and family. So it's interesting being patient with and being steadfast. I like to use that kind of phrase, and being steadfast in God's timing and what He has plans for, because ultimately He has a much, much greater plan. And I hate to use that cliche like phrase, because that's often thrown around a lot in like the popular Christian realm, but it's very true. And if you've experienced it, then you can certainly speak to it. I know I went off on a tangent a little bit, but I feel like that's an important part of what we should be talking about too.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's very true. And you think you hit the nail on the coffin there when you said that when things don't go the way people are asking him for things to go, they immediately lose. They get impatient, or like you'll hear, I don't know, like those people that say, well, like, well, where's God now in this situation? Like when this something bad is happening, and then it's really important to understand that there's a plan that we don't know, and we have to be patient and just you know stick it out and let it be what's going to be, and see what's going to happen, just like your move to Jacksonville. And I think also it's just it provides a lot of comfort for me because um you know if something is not going exactly according to how I thought it would be going, or something comes up in my life, I no longer, like, not that I don't like panic or try and take care of it or something, but it's just kind of like I'm gonna do what I can do, but that's all that I can do, and I just have to be patient, you know, and let him do what he's gonna do. So I think that's really important for sure, and I think a lot of people that listen to us would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the, well, where's God now? And it's such like it's a classic like low blow to Christians, because they know that they can like leverage that, whether it's why is there hate in the world? Why is there bad things that are happening if there's an almighty God? And ultimately, I mean, dude, if you want to be real, you and I have every reason to not like God with the things that we've, been through in our lives. And there's tons of other people that are right alongside us who shouldn't be faithful to a God who seemingly hasn't provided based off of the experiences we've been through, whether it's through death or through health crisis or whatever. But nobody's steadfast enough to see the other side of it. So they're so quick to just move past that and then like deny it, And I think that not doing your part and trying to be patient, but dig into your faith a little bit and not do your duty, what I feel is a duty of every human, is to seek out those things. And if you're not doing that, then I don't know. I just feel like it's very cliche if someone comes to me and says, well, he didn't provide for me, so why would I ever try and seek something like that? You're never gonna, if you're not looking and you're not trying to learn more, or try and seek something like that, then you're never gonna be able to reap the rewards.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to
and
look for that lesson in each bad situation or bad thing that comes up, instead of looking away, look towards him, turn towards him. Okay, what good can I take out of this? Like, what's to come from this that is bright, instead of just looking at the dark side of things and turning away from him. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna be a super negative human if you look at every situation as the victim. I mean, that's exact, and it really ties into kind of the mottos and the principles we live by, and not being a victim to your circumstance. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe stop living your life as a victim and look for positive. You know, you can put a positive twist on that too. It doesn't have to always be religious. In my case, I am a little bit. I'm quite a bit more religious in that, because I understand and I've been seeking out my faith quite a bit, and I've seen what God's done in my life. And maybe you don't see it in yours, but maybe start shifting your mindset to everything's so negative. You know, the world is against me and I have no control over my life, to
Yeah.
looking at the opportunities that have been provided. You know, open up your eyes. Things don't happen just coincidentally. Whether you think they do or not, they don't. You know, there's always a greater plan. There's a master plan ahead. I mean, I'm dating a girl that's in Pennsylvania right now. I never planned that, but here we are, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And it's one of the easiest, it's the easiest relationship I've ever had. So it's like I could ask a billion questions as to why did God put me here? Why did I move down to Jacksonville away from every? You know, I'm not going to sit here and be negative Nancy about everything and be a Karen and get offended and victimize myself. You know, I'm here to seek out positivity out of every situation that I'm handed, and that's ultimately what everyone should do. You know,
That
and maybe then you can kind of start to dive into your faith a bit.
and that reminds me of which kind of ties in. This is a little bit off topic in a way, but with Jocko, when he's talking about, we've talked about it before, with anytime something happens, good. Did something bad happen today? Good. Like anytime something comes up, instead of like you're saying being negative and freaking out, and just say good. And all right, what am I going to get from this? How can we figure this out? Like that patience to be able to stop and look at the big picture and just say, okay, good. What am I going to get out of this? Like I'm going to grow from this. So yeah, I love that. We talked about that before, but we always reiterate things.
Well,
And
that's go ahead, John.
I was going to move on. So if you have something to add.
I was just saying that's patience. That's patience to a T. I mean, it's patience 101 right there. You know, it's
Yeah.
looking at a situation. Okay, what can I learn from this? It's not what I wanted. It may not be the result that I wanted. You know, let's reevaluate all these things we talk about. This is patience. It's not just taking it on the chin. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. It's taking it on the chin and moving past it, but like the patience is enduring it. And you know, Nick Bear talks about suffering well. Like even in those circumstances where you're not getting the result that you want, how are you able to capitalize on this? And what I sometimes say is like a productive pivot or a functional pivot where you can like shift around a little bit and use it to your advantage, right? Like take that on the chin and learn from it, and then try and make something out of it, you know. And that's literally just being patient. It's not just the physical act of being patient, but it's also evaluating the situation and using it to your advantage. And that's a tenured move right there. That's an experienced move for somebody to do, because a lot of people don't like that step, that part of being patient. They just see the situation and then they accept it for what it is, which is great. But how can you capitalize from that too? That's part of it. That's not patience isn't just taking it on the chin and then being done with it. You know, I
Yeah.
think that an amateur move, that would be an amateur move, right? But you have to own your crap and then move off from it and see how you can learn.
Yeah. Right. The amateur move, like you said, is to take it for what it's worth and to just react
Yep.
emotionally towards it, which is, it's hard not to do that sometimes for sure. But that's also something I've learned at work when things change in my schedule or something comes up that was just kind of like out of the blue, or even like the way that like some patients or even people that we work with might like could throw you an attitude or something like that. And the initial reaction is, my first thought is to react. But now what I've come to realize is that the first thing I do is when I feel like I need to react is stop, process, be patient, think about it, and then if I need to say something, say it in a way that is appropriate, not reacting out of emotion, and just being patient. That's the way you want to do it. It's not that take it for what it is, be emotional and react. Like which I've done in my training with biking, because my biking has been crap since I started because I've just started biking. But at the beginning, I get just emotional because it's so hard, and I'm like, this shouldn't be this hard. Like, I have good capacity for endurance at this point. I've been hammering running. My legs shouldn't burn this bad. This is ridiculous. And I'm just get emotional. Like, you could ask Aubrey. There's been a handful of times where I've just stopped and got off the bike and sat down because I was just like, this is freaking ridiculous. This shouldn't hurt this bad. Like, something's not right. And you just react. And like, it's so childish and stupid. And, there are other factors that play into that, but now looking at it, I'm like, I just need to be patient, and I'm getting more comfortable with it. I know it's hilarious. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. But
So
you just get so
I'm
you put so
laughing.
much time into it, and you get them, and then it makes you emotional when it's like things are not going the way that you wanted it to go. But that's just
Dude,
life.
I'm laughing hard because I cycled 2 weekends ago. I think I told you about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I used to, me and my boy Ev, we would cycle semi regularly for a couple, like I would say for like a month straight. We were riding like every Saturday. We would do like a little bit of a longer ride. Longer ride for me is like an hour and a half. I'm not at his tier yet. He's at like 3 hours. But I've been hammering out running, obviously, because of Donna. And then 2 weekends ago, I flared up my calf, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take off this long run. We were supposed to do 15 miles. And I was like, I'm not going to go out there and be a dummy and hurt myself. So I hit him up and I was like, let's go, let's go cycle. He's like, all right, let's do it before church. So Sunday morning, we get out there. It's cold as heck for Florida. I mean, it's like in the 30s. We start riding, dude. I'm gassed within the first 10 minutes. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I was like, dude, go ahead because I cannot hang right now. Like, we were riding with two other guys, and I was like, go up with them. Like, I just can't hang. I'll just go at a slower pace and try and just not, crush my legs too hard, but still get a good workout. Sure enough, I get a flat on the ride back. So I'm like, dude, it was such a train wreck because I'm right there with you, Jonah. Like, I get emotional about that stuff. I was so frustrated in the moment, and my legs were gas. I'm in probably some of the best shape I've been in my life because I'm running so much right now. And I'm out there cycling, and I could smoke anybody right now running, any casual runner for sure. And I get out there and cycle, and it seems like none of my running has translated in my cycling. And it's exactly right. It doesn't translate. Yeah, your cardiovascular system is, but your legs aren't built for that. They're two very different sports. So I feel that to a T. And I also wanted to circle back on the faith thing, which I know we're kind of jumping around, and we're going to wrap up after this, but I had a light bulb moment when you were talking. And I wanted to say this because I remember back whenever I was in middle school, we used to go to this Young Life camp, and it would be in different states, but we'd spend like a long weekend. We'd spend like 4 or 5 days. And, a lot of the counselors I grew up with were at this camp, and it was this huge thing in our high school. We had tons of kids that would go. And I remember we sat down with our counselors, and we asked them to pray over us about something that we were looking for or something that we were really just like wanted. And I remember sitting down with a guy named Dan Long, and I asked him to pray for passion. I wanted passion in my faith because I was just like lacking it. Like, I was in middle school and high school, and I was like, I don't know what like everyone's talking about. All these like older folks are talking about how they're so strong in their faith, and I didn't know what that looked like at that time. And I've always wanted that since even up until a couple of years ago, even up until last year. I've been wanting that, and I haven't had it. And it always seems so monotonous to sit down in front of a Bible and read. And I feel like I wasn't connecting. I couldn't find out where this fire came from that others were experiencing. And then I moved to Jacksonville. And I've had such a life change and experience in my faith that I've never been able to quite describe before. And I still will do a really bad job of describing now. But I cry every single weekend at church, like every weekend, because it brings me to my knees, and I go and kneel at the altar and I cry. And I have no shame in saying that because I'm very proud of it. I've been wanting that for so long. And I know it sounds kind of funny, but it brings me to my knees, and I am not the person to be all like praisey and put my hands up in the air whenever you see that at church and scream or anything like that. I'm not like that, but I do put my hands up in the air, and I sometimes will just bawl my eyes out at church because I am finally getting what I've been praying for so long, which is the passion to seek out my relationship with Christ. And it honestly makes me even emotional now talking about it, just because I had a light bulb moment when you were talking about that. And I remembered back to that exact conversation, and I hadn't ever rethought that until just now. And it's been such a like a pivotal thing. And I got baptized probably about 7 months ago, which I never thought that would ever happen in my life. And ever since I moved to Jacksonville and I started attending the church that I do, it's been life changing. And that's something I've prayed for so long. And it's crazy that I have that now. And it's exactly what I wanted, and 10 times that. I mean, every week at church, I'm in awe of how my heart feels at church. So, and I pray that for everyone else too. I hope that you can one day experience that. And Jonah, when you come back to Jacksonville, we're going to go to that church, to my church, and I want to show you. And I show everybody. I'm like, this is like a part of the trip that you have to attend if you come and see me in
Yeah.
Jax. Like
I
I have family members that are in Pennsylvania that are watching because they know how awesome it is. They watch from afar. So
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm curious to go and check yours out next time I'm there because it's just so different than my church. Like
yeah,
there's maybe like 30 people in my church, and it's just like it's just a completely different atmosphere, all for the same purpose, which I think is so cool how it can be so different but so much of the same, at the same time. So
yeah.
yeah, I got to check it out for sure.
It just looks different for different people. And you know, my church is big, but you can get that in a small church. And the most important thing is, you know, is seeking out your faith in Christ, and, you know, the patience that comes, that is required in faith. I mean, you're not always going to get what you want 24/7, but I think the most important thing is find a spot where you can feel like comfortable seeking out your faith, and don't let anybody tell you that a certain type of denomination is the right way. The right way is the way that you seek them out, whether it's going to church or not. My mom, God rest her soul, she used to walk around and talk to God, and that was her form of kind of communication and seeking Him out. And she would just go on walks and talk out loud to Him. So whether it looks like that, whether it means you go into church, whether it means you hop in a disciple group, or whatever it is, find that, and be patient in that, because I'm seeing what I've wanted to see for 15 years now, and for the first time this past year. So
Yeah,
patience is in every aspect of our life, you know.
I think that's awesome, Drew. I'm really happy for you that you have that down there, and that whole move. I remember how stressful that was for you, and it just is, it's just awesome now to see that you love it and it's working out so well for you, and you have that. So that's awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, so just to wrap it up, like you were saying, you just have to be as patient as you can in all aspects of your life. And something we didn't touch on that much, but I'm not going to talk a bunch about it. Be patient in your relationship, not only with God, but with the people you love too. That's something that's really hard for me sometimes and everybody else, but that's one of the more important ones. So be patient with those that you love, and just patience is key. We thank you guys for listening, and I think this is a good one. This one has a lot of meaning into it, so we hope that you take a lot from this. And yeah, we appreciate it so much. So thank you guys. And if we don't see you next week, we'll see you the week after. Drew has Donna coming up, the half marathon, so he's going to be really focusing on that. So if you don't catch us next week, that's why. But we'll be back. Anything else, Drew?
No, thank y'all for everything. And Jonah, love talking about this stuff. You get me motivated in this aspect of my life, because I'm really impatient. I feel like you're way more patient than me. So thank you for that. I know you're smirking. For anyone who's just listening, Jonah's smirking right now because he doesn't think so, but I think so. You're way more patient than I am. So I look up to you in that, and I admire you for that. So good talk. Thank y'all for listening. Be on the lookout for the next pod. Other than that, we're out.
All
Peace.
right. Peace.
I got that